Hello everybody, I'm Shreyam Banerjee, a CMI alumnus, and I qualified the IISc MStat exam in the year 2023 with an all-year rank of 48. With only 60 days left for the IIT-JAM exam, there must be a million questions going through your mind. What to study, how to prepare, which topics are important, how do we decide our time management? So in this video, we try to address all these questions in detail. So without further ado, let's begin. The first and the most important thing is to know your syllabus. What are the topics you have to cover? So your syllabus can be broken down into these three major modules. The first being probability theory, statistics, and mathematics, right? So under probability, the subtopics that you need to study are probability, univariate distributions, multivariate distributions, limit theorems, and sampling distribution. Under statistics, you only have two major things. One is estimation, the other is hypothesis testing. Under maths, you'll have to study sequence and series, differential calculus, integral calculus, and matrices and determinants. Now, we talk about time management. These topics are mostly things that you have done in your school, you have a brief idea about it. So you should be roughly devoting around 20% of your time to these topics. Now when we come to the two major things that you have to study, which are probability and statistics, because in the end the paper is for statistics, right? So you should roughly divide the remaining time between these two topics. Now compared to probability, you can clearly see that there are only two major topics in statistics, right? Estimation and hypothesis testing. So in between these two topics, my recommendation would be to give a 60-40 weightage to these topics, right? Now let's look at the subtopics in a little more detail. So in differential calculus, you'll have to study about limits of functions, continuity, the mean value theorems, higher order derivatives, Taylor's theorem, maxima, minima, function of two variables, and optimization, right? Under integral calculus, you'll study fundamental theorems, improper integrals, the beta, the gamma functions, the double integrals, and the applications of definite integrals, right? Under sequence and series, you'll talk about convergence of sequences and limits, Cauchy sequences, monotonic sequences, series, test of convergence, and power series, right? Matrices and determinants, comparatively easier topic. You'll have to study about vector spaces, algebra of matrices, determinants, reductions, systems of linear equations, and characteristic roots, right? So this covers everything that you need for your math section of the paper, right? Now coming to statistics part. You have estimation and hypothesis testing. Under estimation, you'll study about bias and unbiased estimators. You'll study about sufficiency. You'll talk about consistency and the methods of estimation. So there are briefly four major topics under this. Under testing of hypothesis, you need to know what null and alternative hypotheses are. You'll talk about the errors, the P1 error, the P2 error, critical regions, and the Newman-Pearson lemma. So this is comparatively less time taking as compared to the probability section, which includes probability, which is the basic definitions of experiment, sample space, conditional probability, and the Bayes theorem. Coming to sampling distributions, we'll study about ordered statistics, chi-square distribution, the T distribution, the F distribution, and so on and so forth. Under limit theorems, you'll study about the weak and the strong form of law of large numbers. You'll talk about the central limit theorem. Under univariate distributions, you have random variables, distribution functions, moment and expectations, and standard distributions like the binomial distribution, normal distribution, gamma distribution, and so on and so forth. Under multivariate distributions, you'll talk about random vectors, joint distributions of random variables, covariance and correlation, and joint moments. So this takes care of the syllabus. So now you know what you have to study. Now, how do you study? How do you actually prepare for this exam? So for that, you need these three pillars. The first is preparing your notes. We all know you'll have some reference book that you're going to refer to, but always remember this reference books are always written with a lot of detail in them, right? And you probably don't need all of them because in the end, it's a problem-based exam, right? They don't test your theory. All they test is whether you're able to solve the problems or not. So it's always recommended that instead of going for the reference books, given that there are only 60 days left for the exam, you prepare your own notes. You write down the important theorems, the important formulas, and so on and so forth, so that when you have 60 days left for the exam, you don't have to go back to those reference books for looking up little details. The second part is lectures. It's always recommended that you have a good source where you can attend live classes or you watch recorded lectures. These two are the pillars that are very important for your preparation. Now we come to the third part, which is how do you get an idea about what kind of questions are going to be asked in the exam. For that, you have the past year questions. These tell you a lot about the exam that you're appearing for. It'll tell you which chapters are more important than the other, what is the weightage of individual chapters, what kind of questions are asked, and so on and so forth. So if you keep these details in mind, nobody can stop you from acing the exam. So if you like this video and if you have further questions, please do let us know in the comments.